Thank you, sir. Uh, is the screen visible, sir? Can I go ahead?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So, firstly, let me thank Namrata Sharma ma'am and Rajesh Sinha sir and AOS for giving me this opportunity to be speaking along with Star Worlds in this field. It's a great honor. So, in the next few minutes, I'll be speaking about fungal keratitis. So, I come from one of the rice bowls of India, that is the Godavari Delta. So you get to see a lot of lush green fields that you see in this picture. But along with this lush green fields, you also have the fungus that is lurking here, waiting for an opportunity of a trivial trauma to infect our corneas. So I have no financial disclosures. So I'll cover the topic under the following headings. So fungal keratitis is far more common in our area when you compare to other form of keratitis, and it's also very severe. And the perforation rate is also 5 times more when you compare it with bacterial keratitis. And the need for therapeutic graft also varies from 20 to 40% of the cases, making it one of the largest contributors to therapeutic grafts. And outcomes when you compare with other cases also are poorer, especially if the fungals are larger in size. And the burden of fungal keratitis is also more. It costs 3 times more than what you treat to a bacterial keratitis for the patients. And given the background, we also see around 3 to 4 new cases daily in our routine OPD. And the most common risk factors that we come across are trauma with vegetative matter, as I've already elaborated, especially in agricultural population. Adding to this, the over-the-counter steroids play a very important role in development of these steroids in these keratitis. And most commonly, the post-op steroid that we give for cataract are there in these homes already, and whenever there is slight redness, they tend to use the steroids drop that are already there in their homes. And we see more cases, especially in the season of reaping of paddy, when the trauma can be more. And in fusarium, we see more commonly in South India. Aspergillus, you see more commonly in the north and eastern part of the country. Candida, we see very rarely, and whenever we see, it's usually in immunocompromised patients. So fungal keratitis, these are the early clinical signs of fungal keratitis. You can easily mistake it for a dendrite, and you have to differentiate it from a dendrite and treat it accordingly. And also as it progresses, you can also mistake it like a geographic ulcer. So the best way to differentiate is to do a corneal scraping and see. A simple KOH wet mount will show you these filaments. And in either case, by doing a therapeutic debridement, you're doing a benefit to the patient, so we need not worry about that. And next, you have the classical fungal keratitis, which is described with feathery margins, hypopyon, satellite lesions, and aspergillus. So in the fungal keratitis, clinically, you can see the fungus attacking probably in 3 layers. If it is more superficial and it is spread only over the anterior stroma or sometimes even on the epithelium, it is usually because of Demoetious fungi. It's like a carpet-like spread, and when you can lift one of the edge, it will come out like a carpet. And until unless you do that, it will not go away. Then you have fusarium, which is usually restricted to the anterior or mid-stromal level, and it responds well. Aspergillus, in our experience, is more difficult, and it tends to penetrate more deeper, and it has more endoexudates. Larger hypopyons are associated with aspergillus. And this is the advanced case where you have endothelial plaques, limbal involvement, and perforation. Most commonly, we can misdiagnose fungal keratitis with pythium keratitis, which is very similar in presentation, but there are two hallmark lesions that will help us differentiate it from fungal keratitis. One is this tentacular projections that you can see here, and other thing is the peripheral gutter like a PUK that you can appreciate in the other pictures. So you are treating a case of fungal keratitis and it's not healing with the maximum medical therapy, then you should have high suspicion towards pythium keratitis and look for these two differentiating factors of tentacular projections and a peripheral gutter that will help us differentiate between these two identities. Coming to the microbiological evaluation, KOH is the simplest test that we can do that's very sensitive. Then you have grams where you can easily see this beautiful filaments. And this is the growth on potato dextrose agar. And this is the fungal filaments that you see on in vivo confocal microscopy. So in vivo confocal microscopy has a role, especially when the ulcers are not scrapable and the ulcer is inaccessible to scraping. Like here, if you can see in this picture, where the cornea is almost clear, but the ulcer is extending from the inner lip of the tunnel. And if you can see here on in vivo confocal microscopy, the depth is also on the AC. It's almost 834 microns, and you can see this beautiful fungal filaments that are demonstrated by in vivo confocal microscopy. To go a step further, in vivo confocal microscopy, you can broadly identify the species also. So usually Fusarium have branching at 90 degrees that are shown in the microbiological picture. So most of them will be actually branching, and from that branch again, you'll not see further branches. That is how Fusarium usually presents in vivo confocal microscopy. Whereas Aspergillus usually branches at 45 degrees and there is dichotomous branching. And from that dichotomous branching, again, you have more branching at 45 degrees. So broadly, Fusarium will branch around 90 degrees. It will not have this dichotomy, whereas Aspergillus tends to be dichotomous with 45 degrees angle in the limited experience that we have seen. So coming to the fungal keratitis treatment, we have adopted the TST protocol from AIIMS, from Namrata Sharma madam's group, that is topical therapy, systemic therapy, and targeted therapy. So first we give for all filamentous fungi natamycin 5% 1 hourly. We add voriconazole in case of deep ulcers or non-responding ulcers. But the important take-home message here is never give voriconazole as a monotherapy. That is the results we got from the MUT study, because in the voriconazole group with monotherapy, the perforation rate was higher. And in the same way, itraconazole eye ointment we prefer for nighttime application. Symptomatically, we treat with atropine analgesics and anti-glaucoma medication. We have recently presented a paper at the Academy where we found the efficacious role of doxycycline, oral doxycycline 100 mg for its anti-MMP activity. And therapeutic debridement also, we do it every 3 to 4 days as the patient comes for follow-up. And systemic ketoconazole, we give it as per the TST protocol if it's not healing to topical therapy. And if it is candida, we prefer amphotericin B. Intracamal and intrastromal, we don't have much experience, but experience with the Namrata Sharma madam's group and Dr. Rishi Swaroop, I think they use it more routinely and they have good outcomes. We prefer to go in for an early TPK. And definitely there is no role for cross-linking in case of fungal keratitis. I was one of the investigators for the first randomized control trial, where we found out that cross-linking has no role in fungal keratitis, especially deeper fungal keratitis. The perforation rate was higher in the study group when compared to the control. So, and the CLARE trial also confirms that there is no role of cross-linking for fungal keratitis. However, one interesting development in this area is the role of tacrolimus for its anti-inflammatory properties. There are studies that show its beneficial role in the animal models. So despite the maximal medical therapy, almost in 2 weeks, 75% of these cases heal. The reason why they heal is when you give specific therapy instead of empirical therapy that's done by most of the general practitioners, the specific therapy helps for better drug compliance, and you're not killing the commensal bacteria that are there in the eye, which usually have a beneficial role in the healing process, then they act against the fungus. Because of these two factors, when you give this kind of specific topical therapy or systemic therapy, the ulcers heal better when compared to an empirical therapy. So let us see the intrastromal injection video that I have for you. So this is a case of fungal abscess that you can see in the graft host junction. So here we are trying to drain the abscess that is there. So whenever you give an intrastromal injection, if you know that it's an abscess for sure, it's better to drain the abscess and then try to give an intrastromal injection, because that will be more efficacious. So here we are trying to read, but because of the thick nature, we are not able to get it out of the needle. So then we have removed the needle, and with help of a hypodermal syringe, we could drain that flap. And now we can hydrate the area of the ulceration with help of a intrastromal voriconazole. So it hydrates as you hydrate your side ports in the cataract surgery. So with intrastromal injections, most of the times it may not suffice with a single injection. You may need to give multiple injections, and that is one thing you have to remember. So let us see the case of a therapeutic keratoplasty in case of a total corneal ulcer. So ulcers like this, you can't do any trephination. You have to do a freehand dissection, and you have to put the whole thing. So this is almost a total ulcer where the limbus is also involved. I like the point where Rajesh Sinha sir told that we can give intrastromal or intrascleral injections in cases like this to prevent any reinfection. So that is the endothelial plaque that is adherent to the iris. You have to make sure that you clean all those things. You have to lift the iris and clean the infiltrates that are there beneath it. Next, you place the graft as a whole, and then suture it probably with 9-0, especially if the sclera is involved. And these cases will invariably develop glaucoma and probably will require a drainage device in the long term. So thank you for the opportunity. I thank my teachers, Dr. MS sir and Prajna sir, who are known to have contributed a lot to the literature in fungal keratitis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madhu. It was a very nice presentation, very well covered, and some of the things that you showed were really very, very interesting. The way you drained the abscess and all those, it was really very good. And of course, the therapeutic graft, which